There we go.
We did.
Yay.
Hi, everybody. I mean, Harrison.
Our best friend, our producer.
Our hype person.
Yeah. Now that I can see the stream. Hi. Yeah, now that I can see the stream, let me perfect my angle and placement here. Okay.
No, your lighting is very good. I feel like I just can't. Mine, I look white, like very white, like Frozen style white today. It's fine.
It's so interesting. I'm looking at you in the green room. So if any other Twitch people are here, this will pertain to you. Like you'll get the references. But we use Lightstream for our streaming, and there's a green room in it, so you don't have to use like Zoom or House Party or anything to have multiple people on. So for some reason, it only sends the built-in camera to the green room and then sends our webcams to the stream. And I'm looking at Gina in both of them, and you are like two different Instagram filters.
Yep.
You're so warm.
Like warm, and like my hair is golden, and the other one, and this one is white, like I'm bathed in Elsa.
It's a little washed out, but you match me.
Yeah, so. And we both have black V-necks on, so we're very uniform today.
Yeah. We got the memo that we didn't send to each other because we both thought that the other was doing a thing and didn't check in.
Yeah. I know the one time we didn't check in, it was like a mishap. Meanwhile, it's usually like butter. It's usually total butter.
Oh, hey, Dan. So glad you could make it. Yeah, maybe we should pick up the phone and text.
I know.
Because we're actually, that reminds me. I have to text my aunt and tell her that I'm not coming to Thanksgiving.
Oh, it's a little late for that.
Well, I called her last week on Wednesday to tell her.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. You're frozen? Oh, yeah.
I'm frozen? No, I was dramatic pausing. Oh. I don't know. She was like, oh, wait and see. Let me know next week. I was like, all right, well, I mean, my answer's not going to change, but I will retext you.
Mine is canceled because my Thanksgiving, because my mom and my stepfather both got sick, but the doctor doesn't think it's COVID. My stepfather has terminal cancer, so he has to go to the hospital every time he gets sick because he gets really sick. And he's there now, and they actually lost the COVID test that they did on him. Super. But the infectious disease doctor went in to see him and doesn't think it's COVID because he doesn't have, like, I guess the classic symptoms or whatever, which is good. But so, my mom is sick, and, she's like, well, we're not eating. And I'm like, why? Stop acting 90. Please eat and drink water. Oh my gosh.
What does she want you to do? Like, is that to, here's Dad going to my brother's for dinner. Is that safe? Everyone be safe. I don't know why. I asked you everyone's Thanksgiving plan so I can just shame you about leaving your house.
How dare you have Thanksgiving? Yeah, no, I just think like they're not taking care of themselves because they're like sad about winter coming. I'm like, guys, please. Yeah. Meanwhile, my 92-year-old grandmother keeps going out to stores. I can't even think about it. I was talking about it earlier today, and I got so upset just thinking about it. I was like, I was like getting a panic attack. I was like, I can't talk about it because like, it's like I can't control it. She's not going to listen to me. Hi, Mom.
Right. Hi.
You're sick and you're still watching.
I mean, we appreciate it, but take care of yourself.
I know. So anyway, yeah, I was like just saying like, Grandma, like it's making me sick because I can't stop her. She's not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
But she's doing the wrong thing.
Well, I mean, we have, as humans, have to just let go of the fact that we can't make people do things.
I know, but like the consequence of her actions is severe. So I'm like this is the woman who like I've talked about before, like when you watch those Twitter videos of like the Italian mayors yelling at their people, not go out. That's how my grandma is like naturally. She's like, you're going to Wawa? Like furious. And this is non-pandemic times. This is just like a Tuesday in any year. So like, why do you have to go out? Like, mad that you go anywhere. So it's just like funny that, there's like, not funny, but kind of, that there's like a pandemic going on and she's just like willy-nilly going to stores. Like it's no big deal. And I'm like, please stop it.
Sometimes you have to go and enjoy life. You never know if this could be the last time you see But what if it's the last time because you catch COVID? You know what? We can't change anyone's behavior.
Stay home and watch a movie.
I know. I don't think we're going to do Christmas dinner. I think my uncle already said. So this is the only time of year I would see my family. And I'm not going to do it because I think it's safer not to.
Can you FaceTime? Can you just like,
yeah, I'll probably like Zoom in or whatever.
It is like, my feeling is that it's sad, but like we know a vaccine is imminent. We know in the next year, like I think by the time next Christmas hits, most people will have gotten vaccinated. Most people who want to, hopefully. And so we know things are looking like, we can't predict the future, but are looking better. So I think it's okay to say for now, I'm going to be safe because next year is going to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. Although it's so hard to wait an entire year. Fauci says we'll probably be wearing masks into Q3.
I know.
Of 2021.
And I hate masks so much. I actually went to the eye doctor today. And when I first got there, so they have a thing. So the first thing is they have a line, and it's the line is for people who are waiting to get glasses stuff. I needed to go to the right to go to my doctor's appointment. And this woman was like standing, I get it, she's standing on the dot, like the waiting dot, but she's blocking the door. And I'm like, excuse me, because I have to get to my appointment. I'm like, excuse me, do you mind if I like sneak by you? And she like barely turned at me. And then she wouldn't move. And I was like, because she like thought I was like gonna, I don't know, get in front of her. So I just literally slid by her because I was like, I don't care. Like I have to go somewhere and you are blocking the entrance. I get it. Like I'm not going to the place you're going, so I don't need to stand online to get to my appointment. Anyway, so I go in and then I had my mask on, and they have, you know how when you go in to the eye doctor, they have to like the optician does all the things like put your face in the thing and there's a moon, and so I had to do all those things. And as I was doing them, I was getting like so hot and like sweaty, and I thought I was gonna like pass out. Like I honestly was getting like to where like I was like not like I was woozy.
Oh no!
I like actually had to like when she had to leave the room to do something, and I actually like adjusted my mask just a little bit to get like a little air because I was like, I'm gonna pass out. Like I felt like I could not breathe. And then as soon as I went to the other room, I was fine. It must have just been like stuffy or hot, or I don't know what it was.
Or psychosomatic.
Maybe, but I just was feeling like it was only in the one room. I don't know why. And then the next room, I was totally fine.
I found a mask that I can forget about that I'm wearing.
Ooh.
It's great. Yeah, it's the Adidas one for workouts. Ooh. You get a 3-pack for $20, and I'm
ordering.
It's stiffer. It's got a liner, so you could put another layer in if you need to, like you put the liner in. And it's more like it's closer to a foam than a fabric.
Ooh.
And it's got a seam. So it's kind of got a structure, and it's got the nose bump, and it's got a seam. So it's kind of got this kind of structure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little more rigid, and like it doesn't suck up to my mouth. And I like, if I still had my gym membership, I could go out and work out in this mask.
Wow. I'm going to look at, because the ones, anyone that I've gotten so far, like my other problem too is like kids masks are too small, and adult masks like go from my like tear line to like here. Oh, no. I have a small face.
I should send you a mask for Christmas. That's my secret Santa. I will send anyone a mask who wants a mask, as long as you wear it. Promise me you'll wear it.
My other issue with the eye doctor is that my face is a small face, and my eyes are closer together than whatever. So I need to buy children's glasses, but children's glasses don't come in the color I want, and I'm tired of wearing the same glasses all the time. So I'm like, I just had like a meltdown. I didn't really have like an outward melt. I had like an inner meltdown today because I'm like, it's such a stupid thing. I don't think it's really what I was upset about. But I was upset because I just felt like, why is the world not made for me? Like, why can't I go and they have I can't be the only small person Like, who needs glasses? Why don't they come in sizes for small people that are not children? Yeah. Oh, custom glasses for small women and men.
Have you ever tried Zenni?
No.
Because you actually have to measure your face.
Ooh.
So if you can go into adult glasses and probably make them as small as they make them.
Because like, I got them last time at Warby Parker, but it was like a huge ordeal because they don't take your insurance. So you have to, and if I have to do that myself, forget it.
Yeah.
We're going to do that.
I don't think this is insurance either, but the glasses are only like $40 and some of them are like 10.
Right.
Yeah, it's cheap ass glasses.
The other funny thing about, and I'll shut up about it, but the other funny thing is like there was a man helping me, and I know they probably get money if I buy glasses, so I can tell he was like a little annoyed with me. And plus they had to clean every glasses I touched, and I kept forgetting that, and I had like 500 glasses. But anyway, I noticed when he put his hand up today, and he kept trying to sell me on these like jazzy purple ones that I didn't want. And then these ones that have like gold all over them, I didn't want those. I was like, those are not, I don't like those. And he was like, you don't like these? And I was like, no. If you keep asking me, it's not going to make me change my mind. But anyway, he had his, like he wears gloves for work, but he had this huge jazzy purple ring that he cut a hole in his glove so it popped out. And like, I get that he didn't want the glove, like it must be annoying, but I'm like, you're cutting a hole in your glove, doesn't that defeat?
Right.
Just like the purpose. You're like, the ring is like a huge, like costume jewelry purple ring. And I was like, can't you just not? But like, so I was like so transfixed by this guy's jazzy ring.
Yeah, I feel like the jazzy ring is his whole personality. And that's why he has to wear it even in his gloves. So what does he do in the winter? Do all his winter gloves have like a cutout for his jazzy ring? Or does he do what fancy ladies at the turn of the century did and put his ring over his winter gloves?
Right. Why don't
like ballroom?
You're not allowed, but like cutting a hole, like, can you imagine if you went to the like to get surgery and your surgeon just cut a hole around his like huge statement? You'd be like, no, that's not like, it's the opposite. Like you're still getting germs in there, dude. Like
you'd be like, we get it. You went to Harvard. You're wearing the ring. Amazing.
It was such a gaudy, huge, which like no judgment. That's his style. I get it, but like maybe just not at work if it's not going to fit in your glove.
Do you have any other windows open or any other programs running?
I do. Only Gmail.
Close your Gmail.
I did.
Because I'm watching us and we're choppy.
Oh no.
We're freezing. But good news, I got my new computer, everyone. So I think for Friday I'm going to try to have some bells and or whistles.
We are freezing. That sucks.
That's cool. I always freeze looking like a doofus. I'm always like, bruh.
Is it my Wi-Fi? My Wi-Fi looks like it's a strong signal, so I don't know what's going on.
How old is your computer again? You might have the same problem that I have.
It's it's only 2017, 4 years.
Okay.
3 years.
We haven't had problems before.
Stop off of it.
So I don't know. Oh darn, guess I better return that computer I got you for Christmas. Wait, is it better than the one I bought? No, it's
I really
fine.
want a new Mac, but it's stupid to get one, but I really want one.
It's not stupid to get one.
It is because it's just like, I don't need one. Or do I?
I don't know. If Christmas is coming, you could ask Santa.
I could. Santa doesn't come anymore for me.
Harrison says 2017 is an old ass computer. Guess how old mine is? 2012.
That is old. Oh my God.
It's old as shit.
Yeah.
And I was just about to buy myself a new computer. And then I got fired. And now I'm like, I was going to buy a new MacBook Pro. And now I'm like, I don't have MacBook Pro money. So I got, actually, do you want to see it? Yeah. I went on Micro Center and looked at their like open box. And this is a returned lease from a business. And it's a Lenovo ThinkPad with double the RAM that my Mac has.
See, because I have a Mac and I'm a Mac snob. Like I can't be a PC, but I can. Like
I know.
I can. And maybe I just get, I don't know. I don't know what my problem is because I want a new MacBook now. Mine is 2007. It's not that old, but I don't know.
Clearly, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry we're freezing.
I know. I'm really sorry. We could switch, but you'd have to reset us up.
We could switch light stream. We could. I mean, in the meantime, my computer would drag itself to death. Yeah. Let's see if it improves.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what else.
I don't have anything else open.
What can you delete all of the elements in that slide that aren't being used? Because I'm sure there's like 9 extra microphones and like
Yeah.
all extra cameras and stuff. Because it might be trying to look for stuff.
I'm not gonna use that picture because it's not. We don't need it. I'm just gonna delete everything.
Okay.
And that'll maybe help.
As long as I can hear you, that's all that matters to me. Oh, see, this is why we love Harrison, because he's coming through with the pep talk.
Sorry.
So the sound is good. It's just the cameras that are freezing. Okay, that's good to know.
I'm so sorry. It's like I'm just a bummer.
No, it's, it happens. Listen, I worked I worked at a rock radio station and did live broadcasts that attracted thousands of people. And the show was basically had a rig that was set up in case Aerosmith wanted to do a full concert. So I am used to chaos and 9 of the 10 things not working. Like our joke about our boss was that he would get the broadcast up and running with gum and a paperclip.
Well, maybe if you're watching, just look away from us. Because I don't know. I mean, unless you want to set it up, Andrea, on the side, and I'll just hop over. I don't know if you want to try that, but I can keep talking about my week.
Yeah. How's your week?
Well, I mean, so that was like, it set me off today. Like after I did that, I had to do like 4 errands, and I was like teary over the glass, and it's not even like the.
Oops. Gina left the green room. Oh no, 800 things. Oh, whoops. Oh, this is my fault. Okay, this is a bad idea. Bad idea. I may have kicked Gina out of the green room. Oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, yikes. Well, maybe I'll go back here and okay. I'm gonna go in and redo everything. Can you hang on just a second? It shouldn't turn it off. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm working on it. I think I got a little too ambitious where's the bass? There's the bass. Okay.
I had to come over because I disappeared on the stream.
Where did you okay, you're there now.
Yeah.
Okay. You're still not on the stream. Okay. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I feel really bad.
It's
not, there's no clear reason why. I have nothing's open. I have full bars.
Here's me 800 times. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna close that window. Okay, now we're both gone. Listen, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back in like 2 seconds. Here we go. Delete everything that isn't, but our microphones are still on, so you can still hear it. Welcome to a segment I like to call How to Build a Twitch Overlay. Starring Gina. There she is. And I'm going to put her over here. And then make sure that you are the right size. Let's see how fast I can do this. Woo. Okay. Gonna delete that one. Oh, we will also have changed sides when we come back. Guess what? It's gonna be so exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm putting us in our usual positions. It's live radio, everyone. I grew up in this, and I grew up in chaos.
You were. We know, Mom. You were made for this.
Just everybody vamp, and nope, that's not okay. And then Andrea, I'm going to update the stream now so Gina can talk to everyone, and then I'll be in a minute.
Okay, hi. Hopefully you can see me, and I'm back.
So if you don't get what was happening, because for the cameras, we decided to switch who was running the streaming platform, and I messed it up.
No, it's okay. It's not messed up.
And basically, I opened the screen, I opened the window in my computer, and everything went cuckoo bananas. But I will be there in 1 second.
Yeah.
Here I come.
Yeah. Andrea's beautiful face will return momentarily. And this is just, this is just the fun of live streaming. You think it's all just like murder and true crime, but it's also technical fun.
Ta-da!
Oh, yay!
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. We're here. We're back.
We made it. Thank you for staying with us.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's never boring here at my house.
I think you're haunted.
Yeah. Oh look, my Rose came back. I didn't even.
So Rose is the level 3. So right now, Rose is the level 3 emote. So if you subscribe at a tier 3, you get a Rose emote, the Dorothy emote, and the other one.
Blanche?
Yes.
How dare you?
I'm so sorry. But as we get more subscribers, we'll be able to put those emotes in lower tiers. Like a tier 1 will get a lot more emotes. So if you haven't yet, could you please subscribe? Yes. And if you connect your Prime account, you can subscribe for free and get emotes.
And we're working on I think in the new year we're going to have some new probably updates, new little changes or whatever, but maybe an addition of a day and stuff like that. But we'll figure out other bonusy stuff for people.
Maybe a merch discount.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool. Different level merch discounts. Yeah. I thought of today. I decided that I want to do merch about our beef with Grover Cleveland.
Oh my god!
We should make "Fuck Grover Cleveland" t-shirts.
And just to spread the word, because I feel like not everybody knows.
Right.
I believe that Grover from Sesame Street is named after him.
Well, and they should write a strongly worded letter.
They're not going to change it now. It's been too long.
I guess.
It's already canon. They can't take it out of
They'll be like, well, he's actually named after Grover Norquist. No, that's worse. Are there any good Grovers? Grover Washington. Grover Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
What a name. Oh, maybe he's named after Grover Washington.
Maybe he is. Grover
Washington's I feel like the Sesame Street people would have done their homework. They are pretty... except with Elmo.
Right? So, right.
And that happens a lot. That's not a thing you can see coming all the time.
Right.
But besides that, I feel like they would have done more homework. Yeah. Just like when I had my son, I Googled his what if we liked any name, I would Google what his future name would be first and last. See if there were any skeletons with that name.
So if you accidentally name your child Ted Bundy,
right?
You're like, oh, damn it.
Mm-hmm. I like the name Theodore. It goes with Bundy. So are there any others? And
you have to go with Theo.
The problem is anything could change at any moment. Just like we were talking about with that Salt Life company, how people are into it, and then the guy who was a former creator, killed somebody, la la la. So you never know. Your favorite brand today could be the brand of murder tomorrow.
There was an epic tweet when Me Too was blowing up everyone's shit, and just story after story after story, and someone just tweeted, I'm getting word that it's all of them.
Yeah.
And just it could be us. It could be you.
Yeah. So. I tell my students, I'm when I tell my creative writing students all the time, and they always put up a fuss, but I'm don't use brands and if you want your story to be enduring, don't use brands and pop culture, because what is fine today, in 10 years, you don't know what the image of the brand will be, and that will change your story. What if you wrote a story about going to see Bill Cosby stand up? up. You know what I mean? That doesn't age well, right?
Yeah.
So you want to like think about what you're going to put in there because it can and will change, and sometimes not in the way that you want it to change. So, anyway, don't reference anything. Be your own person.
Never be meta, even though society humor is based on it.
Never be meta. So tonight's story. Anything else from this week? Did we say it all? One quick thing. I started listening to a podcast today, and it's called Tenfold More Wicked. It's from the Exactly Right Network, and it is. I'm only like 20 minutes into it, but I'm already. It's this woman is a true crime historian, which I'm like, who knew that you could even be that? I mean, damn it. But anyway, so yeah, she has an amazing job, and she's just telling this story of this like basically this guy who was a genius and he made medical breakthroughs, but was also a serial killer. So it brings up like an interesting question about like the serial killer brain, but then also like ethical things about like, do you execute someone who's a serial killer if they are making doing things that matter in science, like in other words, like let's say we needed a vaccine and the only guy who came up with the vaccine was also, Ted Bundy, so it's kind of like.
Well, no, that's easy for me. One, I don't believe in the death penalty, so that's that. And
no,
two,
me neither. Yeah.
Well, and two, for every man who does something, there are 10 women who can do it better. So Someone else is going to come up with that vaccine. He didn't do it all by himself.
Right.
Someone else in his team would have done it.
This guy's like 1800s level, so he's coming up with things that are like he's coming up with like genius level things that other people, it would take people years to find. Anyway, it's just sort of like they use that as I'm just 20 minutes into it, so I don't know, but they kind of use that as an excuse to not at the time execute him. Now it would be like in jail kind of thing. So like it's that question of like, can you respect the work of the person but abhor their who they are as people. It comes up with writers all the time. Like, can you love the work of someone who's trash?
And do they get a pass?
Yeah.
Like, there's always like the awful genius, right? The genius who treats everyone terribly, the genius who's actually a monster. And society has this like fascination and I guess a pass. Like, I don't know. I forget. I don't know the word, but like society protects the quote unquote like one of a kind man. Mm-hmm. And it's a myth that anything they do is so important that the other people who they make suffer have to suffer.
Right. This guy is interesting because he was an immigrant I just got through a part where he's a German immigrant, and the people at the time don't like German immigrants because they think like they'll never assimilate into American culture. It's just funny because it's like they say like this is in every time period of American society. There's a new group whoever the newest group coming over is, people feel that they'll never assimilate, and so there's that friction. And so in this time period, this guy's German, and so he's like not trusted because he's German or whatever. But anyway, I recommend it because the storytelling is really good. It's so well researched, and like, I mean, I don't know where it's going to go, but I think it's going to bring up some interesting ethical questions. So I'm into it right away. And plus, true crime historian, I'm so jealous.
There can be more than one historian.
Well, I know. It's just like, I feel like I'm the same thing happened. I was listening to Murder Squad earlier today, and Billy Jensen is talking about this work he's doing. And he's essentially doing a book parallel to what I am writing about with the Frankfurt Slasher kind of. And his job is that he gets to go and fly to a location and gets to interview a bunch of people and then gets to write a book. And I'm like, I wish that I knew that that's what I had wanted to do with my life when I had the ability to do it, because now I have to do it like on the side. Like, it's taking me triple the time it would take him, and I don't have access to it's not that I can't do it, but I'm frustrated that I'm like, didn't go the path that I should have gone. I'm in that space.
Well, Harrison loves that you're writing a book.
Thank you.
So you never know. Like, you never know what you can do or what your life will become. Or, I mean, so now with everything virtual, My voice teacher and I were talking. She was like, I almost had a job in Germany, but it fell through. So now I'm taking on students. But now that there's Zoom, now that we're all on Zoom and we're used to it, if I go to Germany, I can still teach your voice lessons. So like you could teach if it's going to be virtual from anywhere. True. You could go wherever you need to do research and teach the class.
Right. I think, I'm trying to be hopeful because it's not like I don't have access to things, but I just was feeling, I don't know, along with this is like all this today. I was just feeling like I did the whole thing wrong. Like I keep getting those feelings like, I didn't go the right path and I keep going the opposite way of the way I want to go. And, I don't know how to like back the car up and turn around and,
Well, there's always a traffic light and you stop in the road and you don't have to back up.
Right.
I'm proud of you for having the dedication to write a book. Yeah, it's hard.
Thank you.
I've never wanted to write a book for exactly that reason because I know how hard it is.
It's just like it's a hard subject. I don't mean to complain. I don't know what I'm like. This week was just a series of those experiences of me like I signed. I'm sorry, everybody. I signed up for an art class. And it's only 5 weeks and it's 2 hours. And the first class was so hard that I was laughing the entire time at myself at how hard it is. That it's like it says beginner to advanced. This is for like somebody who's definitely already advanced. Like the first assignment that we have to do is draw a copy of a famous artist's drawing faithfully. And I'm on my third try, and I keep laughing because I don't like. I had a knot in my stomach the whole time, and I'm like, I thought this would be fun. I'm not having any fun. So I feel like I keep it's just like you keep like driving down the road, and you're like, oh shit, this is a dead end, kind of thing. But like you said, it's not over.
The road always goes forward.
The road always goes forward. Wah, 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 wah. People are starving. What did you, when you were a kid? People were starving in Africa. Are you really going to complain about this?
I had little girls in China would cry for those peas, and I would, ever the problem solver, I'd be like, "Oh my god, Mom, let's mail them my leftover peas that I don't want." Problem solved. Everyone's happy. They need food. Let's give them this food. We have so much.
Let's get a box right now. Oh God. So anyway, tonight's, I'm done with my whining. Tonight's story, I just want to warn everybody that it's a tough story. It's a lot of heavy things happen. I don't know how to say it. It's a dark story, but it's an I survived story, and I do want everyone to know that because I think it's going to become obvious when I start telling it. But also, I think it helps to take away some of the tension of the heaviness because I don't feel like I usually give such heavy hitting like details like over and over and over again to where it feels hopeless. So it's nice to know that like there's something at the end. But it's also shocking. Like, so what inspired me was on My Favorite Murder, they reran the episode, or they replayed the episode of the Mary Vincent story. And for those of you who don't, I'm not going to retell it, but it's honestly, she has an I Survived episode, but she also, you can find her story online. And she survived a brutal and senseless and horrible attack from Larry Singleton. And of all the stories that I heard on My Favorite Murder, there's two that have stayed with me, and that's one of them. And honestly, the first time I heard it, I was like staying up all night because I couldn't believe that somebody could survive that kind of terror and thrive. Still. Like go out and talk to people and just be okay. So it was so moving to me that I just thought, you know what, it's been a while and I don't think you or I have ever really covered an I survived like that. We talked about people who survive, but never like this kind. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at one of those. But the downside is, like, most of the stories that we're reading are that terrible, but we don't have the victim side of it because they didn't survive.
Right.
So the thing of it is that this reason why they're so brutal is because they go through the thing and they live on the other end. So you're getting all those details that we don't ordinarily get. So so I just wanted to warn you, content warning for just domestic violence, extreme narcissism. Feel free in the comments, or Andrea, just to burst in with any thoughts. This guy is one of the worst people I've ever heard of. Like, I just can't even imagine that. He's
worse than Grover Cleveland?
Oh, yeah. Okay. And not only can I not believe that he's in the world, I can totally believe he's in the world. It's like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So this is the story of Teri Jandusa-Nicolai, who is a woman. One thing I will tell you, two things I will tell you is that I read a book called, oh, balls, I do this every time. I watched her, I do this every time. I'm like ready to talk and I'm like, what's the name of the book, Gina? You didn't write it. I wrote down every other frickin' thing, but not the name of the frickin' book. And then I watched, it's Beaten and Left for Dead is the name of the, spoiler alert. And then I watched her episode of, it's not I Survived, it's like, what the hell do they call it? Surviving Evil. So the only thing I would say is that with Surviving Evil and the book, there's a couple of details that are completely different, and both interview her. So I'm a little confused about what you'll see later on. So I will cover both things. But Teri is known as someone before and after her attack who are positive, energetic, like a devoted and loving mother, like just naturally just adores her children. She's the kind of person who always wanted to be a mom and be a stay-at-home mom. So she, wanted that and loves that. She has a good sense of humor. And there are parts later in her interview where she tells something and it's kind of like dark humor, but it's how she copes sometimes. And she's a very religious person, and she believes that she survived. Part of the reason why she survived is that she could spread anti-abuse, like that she could talk to people and help people to spread the word of anti-abuse. So she really feels like that was God's not point, but like that's what he wanted her to do with her survival. So she let me see, where is it? So she Teri met a man called David Larson, and she met him through some friends at the University of Wisconsin. Let me see. They met 12 years before they got married through alumni of the University of Wisconsin Parkside. There were about 6 regulars, and then they would invite friends to come along with them. So it was like a group that they just started hanging out at pubs and like talking late into the night and just having fun together. And the thing was that personalities kind of like in a situation like that blend together. So everybody seems just cool, and they were all like in their young 20s and just liking being together. And
yeah. When you're in your 20s, you'll hang out with anyone.
Yeah.
I hung out with some real winners in my 20s.
You don't know.
Yeah.
So she meets David in that, and they just had a great time. They were friends. And then they began dating in 1995. He was charming and fun to be around. He was funny. There are some red flags that I'll go into in a little while, but in general, they had a great time together. They talked, they laughed, nothing. There were red flags, but she ignored them, and I'll talk about them in a little while.
We always do.
Yeah. And they make total sense to me when she goes over them. Made total sense to me. So in 19, so it doesn't say, there's not a lot of years in this, so they get married. I guess it'd be 12 years after they met. So they were dating in 95, but they were friends for a while, so who knows? They went to Hawaii on their honeymoon, and things were going well, but they said like there was a couple of stressful moments, but that the honeymoon was really nice. He rented a condo for them on Maui Beach. They climbed a bluff to watch a sunset. I wrote next to had stressful moments. I wrote this is real in Hawaii because everything, I don't know if anyone else has been to Hawaii, but it was much more of an adventurous thing than I expected. And I realized that the only thing I wanted to do was lay on a beach. After like 5 days, I was like, I'm not doing anything else because everything was like scary and like partially you could die doing it. And I was like, you know, I'm good not doing any of it.
What islands were you on?
Hawaii, which was less so. But I did do a helicopter ride, which was, that wasn't scary. That was more like it made me so nauseous that I thought I was going to like vomit everywhere. But it was in Maui. We tried to do the ride your bike down a volcano, and that I couldn't do it. I fell off my bike and ripped my jeans and cried. And then like tried to do the road to Hana, and that was a disaster. And like anything adventurous that we tried to do was terrifying. And I was like, you know what? I'm not made for this.
You did not do activities that were appropriate for what you wanted out of your vacation.
No.
You're allowed to sit on a beach.
Yeah. So then I just bought a book, and I was like, you know what? This is what I want now. I am done.
That's what I did in Mexico. I read 4 books.
Yeah. Yeah,
I sat by the pool every day. I read 4 books. I talked to no one.
It's not like if you're an adventurous person, cool. But what's funny is that when I fell off the bike going down the volcano, they put me in the van to go down with the guy, and I was telling him about our failed ride to Hana, and he was like, "Oh, you know they call that ride to divorce." On the road to divorce because it's just blind switchbacks the whole way there. So it's white knuckle driving, and locals will just pass you on a blind switchback, like in a little beater truck. And then what happened was a tree fell, and we had to turn around before we got there. So we didn't even get to see. It was just too much. So anyway, there are stressful moments in Hawaii, believe it or not. Like if you try to be adventurous, it's stressful.
Yes. So, I had a panic attack while I tried to go snorkeling, and some very young service members came over to see if I was okay.
That's my brother. Oh, he's such a jerk.
See, that's your brother, and that's his name.
Mom hates you. That's
amazing.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So it is custom for people when they do stuff in Hawaii. I don't remember this because I would find this uncomfortable, but custom for people to wear a bathing suit under their clothes so that like you can enjoy the beach at any moment. I personally would not do that because I find a bathing suit like a thicker underwear.
Yeah.
Like I just don't find them comfortable.
And what bathing suit has a good bra in it? None.
No. Doesn't, and then like you're just going to end up with bathing suit in your, like women's bathing suits are
like many clothing items made for women. They're uncomfortable.
Yeah,
a hard time.
Yes, and like
they don't have pockets.
Yes, if you're gonna sit just on the beach, fine. Because like, but I don't want to do activities in a bathing suit. Just forget it. So David and Teri are going on a hike. And Teri just puts her bathing suit underneath and dressed in shorts and tennis shoes. She has a bikini underneath because it's like a short, simple hike. I guess they're hiking and then they're going to see a waterfall. And so it's like it's supposed to be really beautiful when they get there. By the way, I did this, and like the one time we did it, it was the most, I was like muddy, banged up, and then the waterfall, I was like, this is it. Nothing was the magic that I was promised. So he gets on the hike. Maybe before, I don't know, it doesn't say, but he insists that she hikes in her bathing suit. And she's like, I don't want to do that. That's so uncomfortable to hike in a bathing suit. and he's like really getting upset with her. And this is 4 days into their honeymoon, and she's like, "This isn't Playboy, David," is what she says to him. She says, "I don't want to climb around in a bikini," which is totally reasonable, like totally reasonable request. And then he demands that she strip down to her bikini, and she's refusing. And he's becoming like, the book says, surly and petulant, and like he's not listening to her rationality for like not wanting to wear one. He didn't care about her opinion, and so like they were like in a fight, like to where they weren't speaking. And then all of a sudden, like as they're hiking, like the tension is building, and then all of a sudden he strikes her in the head 5 times with the heel of his right palm. And the book says that they were strong blows delivered with power, and that she was stunned and shaken, and that she yelled at him and said like she was going to call the police. And he laughed at her and said, "Who are you going to call? Hawaii 5-0?" And she was just like, she was physically wounded, and she was emotionally wounded. Like she never saw him behave like this way to her, and she was terrified. Like now she didn't want to be around him. Like she was afraid of him now. She like just couldn't believe that happened to her. Mm-hmm. And so like this is 4 days into a honeymoon, and she's just like completely and utterly shocked.
Right. Over what she was wearing.
What's that?
Over what she was wearing, because he wanted to control what she was wearing.
Yes.
Like it's almost like abusers, it's not about the reason. Mm-hmm. It's because it's about the power. They just want a reason to just anything. They're looking for something.
They just want to control you, so they're going to find any reason to do that. And
you got to leave immediately.
Yeah, but the problem is,
you're not going to go back down.
Yeah, the problem is, I think, and we're going to see this. The problem is that she's shocked, right? She's known him for 12 years, and she's probably, if I'm just like, I don't know because I'm not in her brain, but if I'm her, I'm just thinking like, you almost make it okay in your head because you're like, you can't believe that it happened, and you don't believe it will happen. Like, mm-hmm. You don't believe it'll happen again, but you know it will, kind of thing. You try to make it okay because you literally don't know what to do. Like, you just got married, you know?
You're in a strange place. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so I was physically attacked by a boyfriend when we were in Boston. We were visiting his brother in Boston. We were staying in his brother's house. And the next day we were going to get on a plane to go home. And when it happened, I immediately went into like consoling him mode because I just wanted everything to just calm down. Like, we have to get on a plane tomorrow together. There's no getting away from you. So I have to deal with you right now. And I should have left, and I didn't.
Yeah. And it's not, this is so real. This happens to women on every level, physical, emotional, verbal. Like, this is a huge thing that happens because you can't believe it's happening. You want to make it okay. But then also think about it. Like, immediately, not only have your dreams died for the relationship, and maybe further, like you've already maybe planned out in your head where you think things are going. So your dreams immediately die. It's like a lot of grief and shock in a small amount of time that you have to rectify. And so the idea, like, I'm just going to get up and leave, sometimes your brain can't catch up to that yet.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How many times they say women try to leave there's a number of times.
Oh yeah.
Women in abusive situations, they try to leave like 5 or 10 times before they eventually leave.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And you'll see in this story exactly that. It's the classic pattern. So the red flag that I was talking about before marriage is that even though David was sweet and attentive to her, he was prone to verbal outbursts at other people. And this to me would have been, and I can't say that I would have walked away because I don't know, but to me, this was a huge red flag that she just didn't see as a huge red flag because it was happening to other people. Mm-hmm. But he had a habit of calling people stupid idiots, especially like servers, people who work in hotels, like he hated the police, like anyone he thought was beneath, like service people, basically. And to me, that's like, I always think if somebody doesn't treat a server well,
that's a deal breaker. That's an immediate deal breaker.
Immediately, how you treat people who are helping you in a service industry, it says everything, in my opinion, says everything about you. But she just didn't really, I guess, process it. And another thing that was hugely a red flag is that he called any woman in authority or most women who worked for a living stupid lesbian bitches.
Yep, that's a red flag.
Yeah, I mean, that is like, if that's not a red flag, I don't know what a red flag is. Yes,
we gotta allow Harrison's comment because it has so many angry words in it. Yeah. He's a garbage human being.
Yeah. That would be, to me, like the end of it. Like, I wouldn't even go on. Right. But
and you know what?
You're not in whatchamacallit, you're not in Teri's head, you know?
I know.
And
I'm in the after. Yeah.
I think that she reconciled it as well. He has an anger issue with other people. I don't think that she approved of it, because there's an experience that she talks about that I'll get to. I think it mortified her, but I think she compartmentalized it, because she talks about the fact that she wanted to be a mom, and she thought that she was getting old. This feeling is so real to me. She thought she was getting old, and she thought that she had to get married, and so she just went through the motions. And
I was going to ask you how old she was, because if they knew each other for 12 years before they got married,
she's in her 30s. Yeah.
And so I definitely feel that. I feel that. That's why I stayed with the dude who attacked me. Some of the reason, because I was like, what else am I going to get? Like, he was the first boyfriend I ever had, and I was 23. So it's like, well, this is what you get.
And like, it's like, it's all those things. Like I said, you can't believe it. You want your life to work out. You think you're getting old, and you need, like, it's all that stuff that you sort of like you do all the emotional labor to make it okay. When it's not okay, and it's okay to say, this is bad, you are a bad person, I'm leaving you. But and then once this guy now, because of she's in this situation, it's a lot harder once you're sort of married, and like, and then you'll see they have a child, then it makes it a lot more complicated. So,
and probably financially dependent too.
Yes. Yeah. So David, there's stuff about him peppered through, so I don't really have it in any sort of order, because I was kind of just taking notes. But he found he was in the Marines for 2 years, and there's not a lot reported of his military experience, like what he did, like what happened in the Marines. But it's clear to everyone that whatever he picked up in the military, he thought that he could extend those military standards to running a household. He saw marriage as an unshakable contract. He thought that he considered there to be consequences for crimes of disobedience. He saw Teri as his property, and he thought it was his job to make Teri obey him.
Right, because he doesn't have to atone for crimes of disobedience.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he also found religion. They belong to a church I'll talk about in a little while called a Norway Lutheran Church. And he was one of those people that used the Bible to, like, would use very distinct passages from the Bible to, like, out of context, to make an argument that if you really read the entirety of the passage, it's not what that was intended to be.
Yeah.
He would just pick like a phrase that resonated with him personally and his militant point of view. So he was like that kind of a person, where he said he found religion, but he didn't find religion. He found an environment in which he could manipulate people and then use the Bible to his
cherry
will.
picker.
Yeah.
He basically found a way to justify his behavior.
And so There was no more violence on their honeymoon, but he said it was ruined. And obviously, it was ruined. He wouldn't apologize. She said that apologies were impossible with him, and that on the rest of the honeymoon, she was like sullen and withdrawn, and he could not understand why. He was like baffled as to why she was upset. And when she told him, he said, "That was 2 days ago. You made me do it for the way you were acting." So instead of being like, I mean, how could you even apologize for striking someone like that? I don't think there's an apology enough in the world.
Right.
Like, unless like I had a brain aneurysm and my hand flailed accidentally hitting you in the head 5 times.
Right.
Is the only, or I was like signaling for help because I was drowning and my hand accidentally hit you, is like, that's the only thing.
And I would still apologize.
But you still try, right? And he just like wouldn't. And they say like he had rigid, self-defined rules, and anyone who had wanted to be part of his family had to follow the rules or suffer consequences. So this is the story. So she thought his outbursts were worrisome, but she thought that she wasn't. She says in retrospect, she wasn't being analytical about them. That he was mostly on his best behavior, and that she couldn't point out serious flaws, but like then he would, like once in a while something would creep up, and that's where the thing comes, like where he's calling people stupid and he ridiculed them, and that he could be considered a customer for help from hell. Again, that would be it. I would rather like crawl under the tile of a department store and have somebody humiliate me. Like I would die.
Yeah. I had another boyfriend who said something like, he replied to someone asking us a question about Micro Center at Micro Center, one of the employees, and he said it in kind of a rude way, and I like screamed at him in front of the entire store. I was like, "You do not treat people that way. You do not." I'm like, "I know you're frustrated, but yeah."
Yeah. It's to me, it's like that cringe of just ugh. So anyway,
also, I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but this also his behavior is a very classic. Which way do I do it so it's the correct direction? This way. There's a cycle. Nope, this way. There's a cycle. I'm like, I wanted to go clockwise. How do I go clockwise when I'm here?
I know what you mean.
There's so much math. I almost studied physics. So there's a cycle in an abusive relationship where there's the honeymoon phase and everything's great, and then things kind of start to get bad, and they start to creep up, and they creep up on you slowly, and then boom, there's the big blow up. And then after the blow up, there's like reconciliation, and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sad. I'm never going to do that again. I'm a terrible person. Can comfort me because I'm so bad." And then you go back to honeymoon. Mm-hmm. So it's just around and around and around. It's not awful all the time, because if it was, everyone would know to leave. It would be so easy to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. It has to get better so that you think that you, you know what, Harrison? I think it's because they weren't married, so she wasn't his property, because he actually complains to her when they're dating that his ex-girlfriends didn't listen to him. And she said she didn't realize what that meant, that they basically wouldn't be be under his thumb.
Right.
So again, like something that he said that was like revealed who he was, and she just didn't understand where it was. So one day when they were dating, this again, like I hear this and like my heart is in my throat. Like I would be so unbelievably mortified, but you can't know what's in her going on in her brain.
But maybe she was mortified.
She was, and I don't know. I guess she was trying to make it okay. She really is like, when you like, the books talks about how lovely she is, and then when they interview her in the show, she like really is that lovely and sweet. Like she's just a sweet, like a person that you would love to be friends with, you know, just like funny and nice and like just a good, solid person. So I guess she's like trying to give people the benefit, I guess. And maybe she hadn't had either. Maybe she had, I don't think she had any violence in her life previous to this, because there's no mention of it. So maybe she just didn't know how to put it in in context. But one day David was driving, and they came upon a construction zone, and there was a woman doing the flag waving, of cars through. And when he got to the front, he had no intention of obeying this woman's commands, even though, it's a construction zone. And so he, of course, called her a stupid lesbian bitch and rolled the car forward. And Teri became uncomfortable and was trying to get him to stop because, he's, inching up to this woman, almost hitting her. And she's, pleading with him. And he keeps inching forward so that he's almost touching this worker with his car. And the woman gets annoyed, and she taps the hood of the car with her flag to be stop.
Yeah.
And she said he gets so enraged that he stopped the car, flew out of it. And this woman had a stool, a wrestling stool, and he took it and threw it into a ditch. And then he was never touch my car, never touch my car. And then he gets back in his car, and the police are called. And Teri is mortified, and she's covering her face in embarrassment. And she said there ended up being no repercussions, which didn't help.
Right.
He could have had repercussions, but it just was waved away or whatever. But that situation to me is so intense. I felt so uncomfortable listening to that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Because I wouldn't even just when I come to those situations where you have to stop, I'm just assuming that if I keep going, something bad will happen to me. So I can't imagine being I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah. That's a good way to get run over by an earth mover.
Yeah. Because you're a woman telling me to stop. That's such a, it's also it's also if it wasn't so serious and violent and abusive, it's almost funny that he handles it like a child would handle something.
Right.
Throwing her stool.
Right. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous that it's comical.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's weird. It's yes. There are lots of those things that make me cringe too. It's the kind of thing where it's comical, but it's not.
Right.
That he's somehow a cartoon character, but who has just the consequences of his actions are super severe. But if he wasn't dangerous, it would be an absolute joke.
Right, right.
And she just never imagined that his rage would be directed at her. So she kind of rectified it in her mind.
However badly you see them treat other people, they will eventually treat you the exact same way.
Because that's how they think of everybody. Especially, he doesn't like this woman because she's working. This poor woman is flagging. That job sucks.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's great. No judgment. I personally look at it and I think that's got to be terrible because you're out in every condition.
Right.
You're dressed up, even if it's hot. You're completely covered.
You dickhead misogynists who don't want to stop just because you're a woman and they get run over by an earth mover and then it's a whole thing.
Right. Or looking at their phone. God, no, it's a dangerous job.
Yeah, it's very dangerous.
Need somebody throwing a fit because a woman's telling them hey, I'm trying to keep you from dying.
Should have let him get run over by that earth mover.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Harrison. Much respect to the flag wavers in your life.
It's got to be a great job when it's when the weather's gorgeous. Those 2 days of the year when the weather is absolutely wonderful, to have a job that's outside.
I think I feel bad when it's extremely cold or extremely hot.
Well, yeah.
I just think, no, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
So when they were dating, David wanted to get married fast, of course, so he could dominate her.
That's what they do.
And she pushed him off for a while, but she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and that's what he wanted too. Only he wanted that because women aren't supposed to work. And so he wanted. The book kind of talks about how she was outgoing and effervescent and just this really kind person. And so he saw her as the perfect person because she was so nice and accepting and wouldn't confront him really on things or heavily, that he saw her as someone he could control easily. Because he thought that women shouldn't have a lot of power and responsibility. He wanted to be the master, and he wanted a servant. It does say that he was picked on a lot for being, like, he was a smaller sized child. But, like, that's really the only thing in his past that was, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I'm small, and I'm picked on, and
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I get it for a dude, it's hard to be small, but you sure,
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean that you know.
So he felt insecure because he wasn't at the level of patriarchy that he felt he should be on. So he had to find someone in the level below him that society tells you is below to take it out on, to make himself feel like he was higher up than he felt. Mm-hmm. And that's how patriarchy harms everyone, including men.
Mm-hmm. So their honeymoon didn't mark the end of their marriage. Life was good when they got back home, like you said, another honeymoon period. He thought she was such a beautiful woman, and he just, like, loved showing her off. But little by little, she started to see that, like, things were changing and that she was basically living under his control. And she often fled the house to save herself from physical, verbal, and mental abuse. So they talk about in the book how there's, like, that pattern of good times and horrible times.
Yep.
And then when she's pregnant, he doesn't abuse her. She's like, oh, gee, thanks for that respite. Yeah. He didn't want her to keep her job. He thought that working women were abnormalities, which is weird because he was a traffic control person, and he was a traffic controller, and his boss was a woman. So who knows how that went. So she did work for the first year, and she remarks that strangely, how he didn't like women working, but he had no problem depositing her paycheck. Right. And this is another thing that men do, abusers do, is that he was the family accountant.
They control the money. Yep.
He was the regulator of all the funds. He would never tell her what he made. He wouldn't tell her about properties he owned. Mm-hmm. And she says he never filed a tax return, which is, like, I don't know if that was real or she was making a joke, but I think that's real. And it says that he, when they were, so this is another thing he did that should have been a huge red flag, but so when they were dating, he sold her a car and bought her a new car, but put it in his name, and he would take her money. So this must have been, like, before they were married, but like engaged, but not married or something. Because he would take her money, her paycheck, to pay for it. But since it was bought before the marriage, she couldn't claim it as marital property after.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So he knew what he had plans. You know what I mean? This is also so gross that she would only get a $20 to $25 a week allowance, and that she had to provide for him receipts of all purchases, no matter how small. And at the end of the week, she had to balance. It all had to balance to the penny.
Well, that was something that Josh Powell did to Susan Powell. Yeah. In Cold, yeah.
And he was not making money. It's the same thing. Again, the Cold podcast, we talk about it all the time. If you haven't listened, it's incredible. And it's such a highlight into a very upsetting, it's kind of like this. But we're not getting their date. We're only getting, like, what we could know because both people are not around. But it's the same thing. Except Josh Powell wasn't working. Susan Powell was the only one working.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, $20 to $25 allowance, and then having to account for all of that in a week. Like, you can't even, I mean, I know these were late 90s times, but you can't do anything for $20.
Right.
You can't even, I mean, come on.
Of your own money that
you're working for. And yeah, having to balance it out is real shitty. So the part of about the taking the Bible out of context, he often would quote the line saying, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you would to the Lord."
Yeah, that's a big one.
Mm-hmm, but the author of the book is so good because he says, the passage right before that says, "Spouses, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ." And he said later in the passage, it says, that husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Because if you read the entirety of it, if you only take that line out, you're taking it out of context and making it something that it's not. And so he said, like, that was interesting, and that the book is a little bit repetitive, but the book says that that he thought that submitting to women was repulsive and emasculating, and he had the indisputable word of God on his side, which was not.
Yeah.
And so he became big in the Norway Lutheran Church. He thought that God gave him the authority to dominate his wife. So he was really feeling really powerful when they got married. But he was he was like a dictator at home. Clothes had to be folded a certain way. Expenses had to be balanced. Everything had to be just so. And she would try to do those things to make him happy, but nothing would make him happy. And he would always find a flaw no matter what he did.
That's right. Because it's a trap. It's a trap.
What you said, it's not the thing that you're doing. It's the control over the thing.
Right.
And it's mind control. So he would like push, jab, slap her, but like he would push her a lot, and then like the jabs and slap, like he would pretend like it was a playful slap, but it would hurt a lot. And it became for her a situation where she was trying to be a good stay-at-home wife, but felt like she was always waiting for the next time bomb.
Yeah.
And 6 months in, it was like this.
Oh my God.
So the first serious attack happened in the middle of the first year. They said it was an argument over something trivial, like she can't remember what it was, like something so stupid, and that things took a turn and that it became vicious. That he was like punching and kicking her, pulling her hair and pushing her around the house. And so she gets away from him and she runs through the living room. I guess the living room and the garage. I guess the way they describe it, it's like the living room, the garage enters into the living room. I have a hard time picturing it, but I kind of get it. And that in the garage, she could see that the door was, like, the garage door was partially open. And so she bolts to try and get out through the garage door. But he catches her and yanks her back. And as he yanks her back, he slams her into the door a few times. And so her nose is now bleeding. And she's yelling at him to stop. And so neighbors hear and call the police. 10 minutes later, the police arrive. And David is like yelling at them and saying, like, I didn't call you. I don't need you. Get off my property. And so, but the police are sort of like, what's going on? And he tries to make Teri hide, but the police can see she's like bloody. And so, so he then turns it around and says that Teri is the one that's a psycho.
Yep.
But the police don't believe it. Obviously, they know they see this. This is like,
because it's so classic. They all do the same things.
This is something that, these are reasons why, whether it's police or social workers, you need those workers. Because in situations like this is actually the reason when it works. This is part of the reason, if it works well, why it works. Because they intercede on her behalf, and he is resisting arrest, and they have 5 officers by the time they call for backup, and he's fighting off 5 officers. That's how mad he is. And he kicks one of them in the groin, and they have to pepper spray him to be handcuffed. So that she says, like, when he gets mad, he becomes a different person, and you can see he's almost like a wild animal, like that 5 officers can't control him.
Right.
And then as soon as he's pepper sprayed and handcuffed, he starts crying. And the police say, like, this is so typical for an abuser, that they will be bad and tough, and then as soon as they're in trouble, like handcuffed, that they start crying. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they're crying because they got caught, not because they feel bad. So Teri goes to her mom's house for a little while. And everybody learns of this arrest. So, like, he loses favor with, like, the neighborhood thinks he's, disgusting. The church like loses all respect for him. Like he basically everybody who thought he was like smart and respectable realizes like he's garbage. And all he cares about is money and image. And now, his image is like forever sullied because of what he did. And the book says that he thought police were meddling idiots who couldn't tell him how to live. Teri, to her credit, or naivete maybe, and in the moment tells David that she will return if he submits to counseling and therapy. So he agrees and she returns home. And he just basically puts up stone walls for the visits, like keeps putting her off. And at the end of the first year, she's pregnant, and they haven't gone to one therapy session.
Girl, you gotta hold on to, stand your ground.
I know. I feel like so bad for her because like she is not to blame at all.
Right.
But it's just like I'm like actually getting a stomachache while retelling this story because it is so. This story is like it's triggering. It's sad. It's like.
Yeah.
I'm sure when she looks back, she has a million feelings of like, oh my God, So the beginning of the second year, she's pregnant. They haven't gone to therapy. Basically, David sweeps everything under the rug, and they have a daughter named Amanda. And Teri's just, like I said, she's overjoyed. She's like beyond, this is like what she always wanted. She's so happy. But little by little, David's temper returns.
Of course.
And one morning at 5 a.m., he wakes her up because 25 cents is missing from her week's account, her money,
right.
her receipts. And so she's like, it's like 5 a.m. and she's like, I don't know, like 25 cents. And then she remembers like she put Amanda on one of those like little horsey things at Kmart. And she's like, they don't have receipts for those. And he says that he just tells her she's guilty as charged because she should have written it down. And I'm like, that like all of these little things are just so like that's mind control, right?
Yeah.
Like it's such a small thing, and if somebody did that to you one time and never again, you'd be like, I wonder why he was such an asshole that one day.
Yeah.
But like over time, they just like it must become so overwhelming that you can't even remember specific things, right? Because it all becomes sort of nonsense.
It's amazing how much his torture was working.
Yes.
That it's 5 o'clock in the morning. He wakes her up and says, where's 25 cents? And she immediately is like, oh, I know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Because her brain has to keep track of all of these things to keep him from being set off. Yeah. And in quotes, because nothing will keep him from it, but that's the trap.
And this is it doesn't matter, and it's so stupid and pointless. And if you have 1,000 of those, you become numb to it because you're just like, it doesn't even stand out because everything is so preposterous. There's no pleasing this person. They're just looking for things. And so the book talks about how this is classic behavior modification, that he keeps her busy and reconditioning her. And I think it's her or the author talk about, like, if you look at everything together, like we're putting it all together and we're like, go run. But it didn't happen like that. It happened piece by piece, slowly, as he's removing her, like trying to remove people and things from her life and keeping her basically trapped in the house. Yeah. So it's like building that all the time. She's changed and doesn't really see it for herself.
Yeah. And so I mean, to speak from my own experience, have the privilege of being able to see that from the other side of that relationship.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of difference too.
Yes. It's sad also because it probably you don't put it all together. You don't realize and also you're trying to survive. Mm-hmm. Like you're just thinking like it's 5 a.m. I'm exhausted. Is this really important? So you're just trying to get through the next thing. You're not thinking of it sometimes in big picture ways. You're thinking of it like this is so stupid. This is so stupid, and kind of just you know, she says life is a roller coaster, and that as her daughter grew, things got a lot worse. He became more controlling, and now would track her movements because he was afraid that she was going to take his daughter and leave. One day, where was it? One day she cleaned out the freezer, and she found, like, in the back of the freezer, as we all do, like a shriveled up like it was a shriveled up freezer sausage. She called, like, it was like a sausage breakfast sandwich that had, like, shriveled, and it was, like, covered in frostbite. So she threw it out. And then when he got home from work, he, like, came in and confronted her with the sausage sandwich in his hand. And she was, like, stunned. She was like, "What are you, a raccoon going through the garbage?" Because she was like, "Are you
probably?"
serious? And he threw a fit, and they had, like, a huge thing. So she ends up leaving him again at this end of the second year and staying with her sister. She gives him an ultimatum that unless he goes to counseling, she wouldn't come back. So he agrees. They actually have another daughter at the beginning of the third year named Holly. So he agrees to counseling, and they go to this a counseling pastor at a well-respected non-denominational church in, I think, Milwaukee. It doesn't matter. Or Madison? I don't know. It doesn't matter. And during counseling, he admits to the pastor that he's hit his wife, and the pastor strongly encourages him to go to anger management, which duh. But this is a part where I laughed because it's not funny, but it's again so stupid. The name of the place that he recommended, the title of the building ended in Women's Center, so he wouldn't go there. It was just like, Snake Bottom Women's Center. He was like, I won't go there, because he hated women's organizations and thought of them as surprise, stupid lesbian bitches trying to convince women to get divorced.
And isn't it convenient that now he doesn't have to go to this thing?
Right. He gets more and more hostile. He uses foul language in front of the kids. And she said his work schedule was 6 a.m. to 3 p.m., but he would just show up at home at random times during the day. And that one day she tried to do yard work, and she couldn't get the door open. And she looked and saw, and he put a deadbolt on the outside of the door.
Oh my God.
So she got really upset, and she's like, I need we have kids in the house.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll hang a key to the deadbolt in the kitchen, but it would mysteriously disappear when he didn't want her to leave the house.
What if there's a fire?
No. So one time, actually, during a fight, she couldn't get out of the house, and she had to climb out a bathroom window.
Yeah, I was just about to say I would jump out a window.
Yeah.
My door broke once.
It's just, one time my mom, I don't know if she's still here, but one time in our house, the cat had gotten into the bathroom, and I guess the bathroom door closed, and the cat somehow got apologies. I couldn't hear. Got one of the cabinet doors to open, so you couldn't get the door open because so my stepfather had to go around outside and climb in through the window. So and it was like it was probably the same kind, like a tiny window. So she knew at this point, like, I have to leave him. One night he was just being verbally abused and yelling at her in front of her kids, and she said she had no interest in getting beaten by him. So she crept into the basement to escape from him. It's so sad. This one is so sad. And she finds all these boxes, and she puts them all on top of her to hide herself. And she's said at this time she wondered how she got into this, and she felt like she had it's so sad. She feels like she has moments of peace, in this hiding space, which is basically the basement floor with empty boxes on top of yourself, which is terrible. And then all of a sudden she hears him coming down the basement steps, and he's holding the baby, and he approaches the boxes and uncovers them, and he grabs her so hard by her hair that he pulls her up from this floor by her hair, that he actually pulls hair out at the roots. and that he had taken to holding one child while beating her, so she couldn't run from the house and take the kids with her.
Right.
So
and she can't really fight back because there's a chance that he's using that child as a human shield.
Mm-hmm.
I hate this man.
Yeah, I said that this man is so terrible on every level. Like, he has nothing about him, and we haven't even gotten to. I'm so sorry it's taking so long to get to the part. So I'll keep. There's so many things I wanted everybody to learn. So so she left him a third time, demanded counseling and therapy. Same thing. So one day she's in the kitchen feeding the baby, and he comes in, and she had made pasta for the baby, and she left the dry pasta on the counter. And he was mad. And he was like, stop what you're doing and put this pasta away. And she was like, I'm not going to stop feeding a hungry baby to put pasta away.
Oh, Harrison, is that true? I can't tell. If that's true, that's horrifying.
What is it?
I've been the baby in that situation.
I'm sorry,
That's
Harrison.
Awful. Yeah, that sucks.
So he's like mad. He wants her to put away the dry pasta, and she's like, I'm not the baby, because like the baby's like inconsolable if you stop feeding her.
Right.
She disobeyed him, so she like picks up and walks into the other room with her baby, and he pushes her, and she almost falls on top of the baby. So she gets really mad and like yells at him, and she's like, I could have fallen on the baby. Like, what are you doing? And that was like the only time he had no answer or justification, but he didn't apologize either. So at that point, she knows that she has to leave, and she goes to a women's shelter. He just is like, he can't find her. He files a missing person report, and the police are like, oh, we know who you are. We're not going to tell you where your wife is, kind of thing. And she's like doing really well at the shelter. They're giving her resources. And then she files for divorce in 2006. So it's 3.5 years, and she finally breaks the cycle for this. And he was at the church when he found out, and he had like a complete and utter meltdown at the church, and she said people were freaking out because he had been so scary at the church. So during the divorce proceedings, they had to go to court once a month because David would not adhere to any of the requests. He would ignore, like, they wanted his financial documents, he wouldn't give them. She wanted the crib for the baby, he wouldn't give it over. He didn't want to pay child support. He didn't want to bring the girl back when he was supposed to. Like, he was not cooperating over and over. And then, so she put a 120-day hold on the divorce because he said to her, he was blaming her for running away from everything. And she felt like, well, I should give it everything I have. Meanwhile, she already has. Girl, you have.
And that's a tactic. So that's a tactic in divorce to say, oh, well, she's the one who left the home.
Yeah. So she demands that he goes to anger management and counseling, and he did nothing for 2 weeks. He did nothing, and he told her, I'm not jumping through hoops for you. So she was like, okay then, and she puts divorce back on because she's like, that's it. She's like, so you will do nothing for me, but she's like, I did everything. Now I'm done. And so he's finally held in contempt of court for not cooperating. The judge characterizes him as mean-spirited and needing therapy. He tried to say she was psychotic. He told social workers that she was a stripper, his words, prostitute, drug addict, and that she lived in filth. She was disorganized and stored baby diapers in the kitchen cabinets. But of course, this was unfounded. She was none of those things. In fact, he was a mess. He would keep chainsaws and lumber in his living room and junk everywhere. Yeah. And that he would help anything. He would say anything to help his cause, and that he was in his attorney's nightmare. And he said at the time his attorney got so angry with him that he wouldn't shut up, that his attorney turned around in court and told him to shut up. So finally the divorce is confirmed. Yay!
Did he get custody of the kids?
They have shared custody.
Yeah.
David cries, of course. She is elated, and he is wicked and hostile. He's making everything hard for her. She eventually meets this guy called Nick. He's really sweet. He like wanting to be with her. She like puts him off for a while because, you know, she's been through a lot, but eventually they get married. And in 2004, and everything honestly is going really, really great. So on Saturday, January 30th of 2004, she calls David to say that she's going to be there in 5 minutes to get the girls. He constantly doesn't have them ready, so she wants them to be ready so she can just pick them up and leave. She doesn't want to go in his house. So
a power move again.
Yeah, she has to wait outside. So she said she's wearing sweatpants, sweatshirt, jacket, and tennis shoes. So she gets there. The kids, of course, are not ready. He asks her if she wants to wait inside. She says no. It's taking a long time. She gets in her car to warm up, but she's low on gas, so she shuts her car off. Then she's like pacing up and down the driveway. It's 15 more minutes. It's getting cold. She's like getting really annoyed. And finally, David comes to the door and says, "The girls are hiding and they want you to come find them." It was cold and she wanted to go home, and she thought, like, I'll just go in, find them, and we can leave. So she goes in the house and she's like pretending to find them, like, where could they be? And just as she's doing that, she feels a blunt and heavy hit to her head, and it stuns her. She thought that she walked into something. Then she feels it again, and she falls to the floor on her stomach. David jumps on top of her in his stomach. And she sees the girls' coats, and she asks where the girls are, and he says, "Shut up, I don't want them to hear you." And he hits her 6 more times in the head, to the point where he brings stars to her eyes. And but she wouldn't get knocked out. Like, no matter how hard he hit her, she would not get out. And he said, "You're not going to take my girls. You're never going to take my girls." And he kept hitting her, and she was just like thinking, how do I get out of this? Like, how do I?
Right.
She at one point touches the back of her head, and she said like her skull was crushed and her hand was covered in blood, and she starts begging for her life. And so now at this point he's swinging and she's dodging, and he's getting winded because he didn't know it would be so hard.
Oh, so hard. Oh no.
Yeah. So then he's like, he jumps on top of her and he covers her nose with his mouth and his hands, like suffocating her.
Yeah.
And she remembers a movie that she saw where if somebody tries to choke you, you just keep moving your head back and forth. So that's what she does. And she gets breaths in, and he tries to stop her, but they're struggling. And he keeps saying to her, just stop breathing, just go to sleep. But she won't. And his energy is running out. He's shoving anything he can find in her mouth, rags. He takes her socks off. She puts them in her mouth. She spits them out. Her pants start inching down towards her knees because they're struggling, and she's wearing pants. He removes them and shoves them in her mouth. Like, it's like a full-on fight. There's blood everywhere. Finally, he gets duct tape and he wrapped her head from her eyebrows to her mouth. So
God.
And she thinks she's going to suffocate, but she gets a pocket of air.
Oh my God.
If you put your tongue out, I heard that you can make it loose enough, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I think you can like undo the adhesive if you make it wet enough.
He bounds her ankles and wrists, and then he leaves her and goes into the garage, and she's like frantically worrying about her daughters and like, will she see them again? And he comes back from the garage. She doesn't know what it is at the time, but she can hear it. He's got a garbage can, one of those wheeled garbage cans, and he picks her up and he puts her head first into the garbage can. But she realizes that if she goes in head first, she'll bleed to death. So she twists her body at the last minute. So she's kind of like partially, like, she's still upside down, but she's partially not. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they say later she's like in a Z pattern.
Okay.
So then they go outside. Then he takes her outside and he spins the can around and around and around to make her dizzy. And then puts it in the back of his pickup truck under a tarp. So now this part is confusing because they say the show says that the kids weren't there. The book says the girls were in the house and that they go with him. I don't know which one is true.
Well, Harrison is pointing out something that I was thinking too. It's amazing how her brain worked to be able to think all of those steps ahead while that was happening.
I know.
That survival brain. I feel like sometimes like bullet time from the Matrix is actually a thing like some people have. And sometimes there's also like a response, like a trauma response. If something is happening, you have a response to like do something and fix, where other people have the response of like freeze. So
they call it flight or fright, flight or fight.
It's a little different. It's basically which you are more prone to, fight or flight or freeze. It's just whatever your brain decides to do in that moment.
It is interesting because maybe I wouldn't have even realized, like, if I go in upside down, like maybe I would in the moment, but also like, it's funny because it's not funny. I don't know why I say it's funny. It's not funny. But I guess like when they've had fights before, it's been one-sided. Like she's never really fought back. It's interesting that he becomes so winded and can't really fight her. And that she just has the strength of, of course any of us would, like you would fight as hard as you could.
She's fighting for something more important than he is.
So she somehow gets her hands freed and finds her phone in her pocket. Like this guy makes so many mistakes. So she gets her phone out and...
I mean, I think we've gone over before how the husbands never get rid of the purse or the phone.
Yeah.
It's always like, she ran away, but her purse is here.
Yeah, exactly. So she gets her phone out. She can't see the numbers, but she can feel them because they're raised. I'm thinking it's probably a flip phone.
Because it's not a smartphone.
Now I was like, shit. Like, I better memorize where those numbers are.
Well, now we can go Siri call the emergency.
True. So she can't see, but she can feel the keys. She calls 911 and she's trying to talk to the dispatcher can't understand her, but she just keeps repeating David's address over and over into the phone. And then she calls Nick and she's able to communicate to him that her ex-husband has kidnapped her. So in the version of the book, she hears him come outside joking with the kids. And then all of a sudden she hears sirens and she knows that those are sirens coming for her, but he takes off. So they pass the sirens and her heart falls.
So close.
She blacked out a couple of times, but then like comes to and can kind of see where they're driving past. Like she doesn't fully know where it is, but she could describe the terrain. And I forgot to mention that he also fills the top of the garbage can with snow. And so she is bitter cold and losing feeling in her extremities while also bouncing around in this garbage can. He ends up driving her to Wheeling, Illinois, which is a suburban rural town outside of Wisconsin, but near his job. And so she blacks out before they get there, but then is awakened by a loud metallic crash, which I think is probably him opening so it's a storage facility. So it's the door that she hears. And she feels herself being like rolled in somewhere, but she can't tell where it is. Oh, I'm sorry. She, at one point with her hands free, she also tries to wave down another car to let them know she's in the bed of his truck. And nobody sees her, but David sees her and comes back and tells her he's going to shoot her in the head if she does that again. And then in the show, they say that he takes her phone away, but they don't say that in the book. I don't know. But she is able to get one more call to 911 in. So there's that. But I think he takes the phone away. So he duct tapes the lid of the garbage can. And then she hears him wheeling in somewhere. She doesn't know where she is. She thinks maybe it's an airport hangar. Oof. Then she feels things being piled on top of the garbage can. And then she hears a big door open and close. So he leaves. By now it's 20 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And then the temperature in the locker is the same and dropping. And she's starting to get the early symptoms of frostbite. Mm-hmm. and she's worried that he's going to come back to shoot her. And she's worried. She doesn't know that she's in a metal walled storage locker that's no wider than 10 feet in a 40-gallon coffin covered by heavy storage boxes. So she doesn't know. Like, she doesn't know what's happening on the outside. The tape is starting to bother her. She tries for hours to remove it, but it's like very hard. She's only in a light winter jacket and underpants, and there's snow around her feet and calves. Okay, goodbye, this person.
So there was snow. He put snow in the can?
He put snow in the can. So anyway, So she the snow's around her calves, but it's melting, so it's just like cold water. But all she keeps doing, it's so interesting because she keeps thinking about her kids. She's worried about what's going to happen to them, where he's taking them,
right?
She thinks he's going to try and leave the country with them, and she's filled with rage that he did this to her. And she says that she thinks the adrenaline from worrying about her kids and wanting to see her kids again is what kept her alive.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because also I love that idea that you would be so mad at someone for
you live out of spite.
You would live just to be like, you stupid piece of shit.
Right.
You're not doing this to me. Like, I can relate to that. So
yes.
Every time, like, the book, it does a better job than I'm doing, but like, the book really gives you like how she's feeling and how it's getting colder and colder, and like she's fighting to, like, she knows if she falls asleep she won't wake up, so she has to like keep fighting. And I'm like, I think to myself, like, oh my god, I would fall asleep. Like, I'm thinking, but then I don't know, because I would have that adrenaline too.
Right.
You know,
you'd be like, if I fall asleep, he wins. Screw that.
Yeah. And poor thing, she could hear cars occasionally from like a highway, and she would go into a panic thinking that David was coming back to shoot her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, she had no idea. It says in the book that the girls were at a daycare center, but then in the TV show it says they were with David's girlfriend. So I do not know. But her friends, and then her friends were also like, she has like an excellent network of friends. Like, the book goes into just like how she has an amazing network. She has a neighbor who lets her throw out garbage that she doesn't want David to see. She has people who have open door policies. Like, she could just come over at any time. Like, she has everyone in her life who is like trying to help her. Mm-hmm. So they are all just like, the police discovered bloodstains in David's house, so they are looking for him, and her friends are just like coming out in force to like figure out what happened. Meanwhile, outside it drops to 10 degrees, so it's bitter cold in this storage locker. She forces the tape apart with her tongue, but her eyes are swollen shut and taped. Mm-hmm. There's pools of water are like in the thing are ice cold. The police pick up David at his work and grill him through the night. They read him his Miranda rights twice. But he doesn't budge. He plays stupid. Eventually he says that he was working on something at home, and that Teri was all of a sudden standing above him pantsless with the hammer. Which is just ridiculous. Yeah, they did not believe that at all. And that eventually he confesses that he might have hit her with a baseball bat. Meanwhile, time is crawling for Teri. She's struggling to stay awake. She's afraid to die. Her body is like literally dying. She's like praying. She's filled with rage. She's trying to stay alive from her daughter, but her body temperature is slightly above 80, which is like very close to like, I guess, the death. You can only live over a certain amount.
It's almost 20 degrees colder than bodies usually are. Yeah.
And so she's like, everyone was losing hope. Like, this was like, it was like something like 16 hours in or something like this, and everybody's losing hope. And the police search David's wallet, and they find a business card from a storage locker place So they ask the attendant to go and listen at the locker for sound, and the attendant comes back and says, yes, there are noises coming from there. And the police say, get paramedics there immediately. And then, so Teri in the facility is, pretty much an hour away from death. And the police burst in. It's like a movie. The police burst in. They find the trash can immediately because she's making noises. And they pull her. She realizes it's not David. They pull her out gently. Her feet up to her knees were so black that the officer that pulled her out thought she was wearing black socks.
Oh God, yeah. In the cold water, yeah.
Her arms up to her elbows are on their way black, and they said her head was swollen to the size of a basketball, and that she was barely hanging on the way to the hospital. But somehow they're able to stabilize her out of critical condition. They say her body temp is just above the death zone. They thought that she was going to lose both of her legs beneath the knee and at least one arm. But as time goes on, they sedate her for 24 hours so she can get rest. And as time goes on, she improves. Her daughters were safe. She was going to live. David was now locked up. A sad part of the thing is that she had been newly pregnant, so she lost her baby. Which was to me just an extra gut wrench that we didn't need.
Right.
And that they also said that when David heard that they found her, he hung his head in disappointment, and that he would be the only person who could do such a thing. She had to endure painful reconstructive surgery. She had it on her skull. Skin grafts that were super painful from her butt to her toe, from her butt on her toes, or on her feet rather. And she said it was so painful because of how dead her feet were. But the only thing that needed amputated was her toes, and the rest of her limbs were miraculously saved.
Wow. All of her toes though?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Her feet they said it was black, like socks.
Yeah.
After 37 days in a hospital, she was scared to go home because she was anxious. No, I'm sorry. She wasn't scared. She was excited to go home. She had no idea how big her story became. And because she didn't really watch TV in the hospital. And when she drove home, people had put out green ribbons, which are for domestic violence awareness, all through her route, which gives me the chills.
Yeah.
So the whole way home, people she could see that people were supporting her, and there was a small group gathered to help her home, and they put in wheelchair access so she could get inside. And David was held on 3 days until they decided the charges, which were attempted homicide, kidnapping, homicide of an unborn child, and other penalties. His attorney tried to have evidence thrown out, the no search warrant. There was no search warrant of his home, his statements to police, and the search of his wallet. But the court said, F off.
Right.
He claimed he was suffering from depression and said he was innocent by reason of insanity, but they said, nope, not only did you plan this ahead of time, but you knew exactly what you were doing. Right. You hid it afterwards. So the court appointed psychologist said no. Teri testifies to acts of violence on the day of the attack. He leers at her in not church court, but she won't even look at him to give him what he wants. And then he gets sentenced. So I guess he had a state trial and then a federal trial, because in his first trial, he had 37 years. He was sentenced to 37 years. And in the subsequent federal trial, he was sentenced to life, which is 2 sentences above the recommended penalty.
They really hated him.
Yeah, and he tries to appeal it, and they say, no. And what you did to this woman, her family, the community is above and beyond, this is absolutely what you deserve. And God bless her. She filed a civil suit against him for monetary loss, bills, pain, and suffering, and was awarded a majority of his assets, which equaled $3 million.
Yeah, get it.
The best.
Make him Paid.
So she is now a speaker. She speaks at like schools and every place you can imagine, and she is the most positive. She cracks jokes. She's endearing. She's happy. She has a wonderful marriage. She found someone who just like treats her like she deserves to be treated like a regular person. It's a regular marriage, and they interview him in the show, and he's the sweetest, and she is happy, and she does have obviously PTSD, but she really is doing such brilliant work to make people aware of the dangers of domestic violence, so people don't fall into it as deeply as she tries to save people from falling into it as deeply as she did.
Yeah.
So
because once you know, then you can see all of the early stuff. But if you don't know, then it just,
And so I think as upsetting as the whole thing is, and I know it's extra long story, but I wanted so bad. Once I read about it and learned about it, I so badly wanted to tell it because I was like, there are people in every stage of this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the kind of like, it amazed me because like the two movies where I've seen two, well, I haven't seen the movies. I only saw one of them and I hid my eyes the whole time. But there are two movies where it's like white men trapped in a place for the entirety of the film and like how they struggle to get out. And I'm like, this is the movie that should be made. Like 187 Days, I can see why that was made because that guy had to cut off his own arm. Power to him. Like, sure, fine. But the one where Ryan Reynolds is in a coffin, like,
oh yeah, when he's buried alive.
Yeah, like interesting. But how about like it's interesting that we don't have stories like Teri's. Like people don't want to hear these stories. People are afraid to hear them because they don't want to believe this exists or they can't. It's upsetting. It's like sort of like
because it could happen to anyone.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I think when it comes to abuse, people turn a blind eye, and I don't really 100% get it. Like she did have supportive people who tried to help her. But I think by and large, there's like this low-key judgment of an abusive household. And it should be the opposite. It should be these stories should be shared far and wide so people understand the situation that they're in and the possible danger and escalation. And they should see it in other people and hold those people up so that we don't have stories like this.
Yeah, hold abusers accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I noticed and that comes up for me in situations like this when if you see that someone is in an abusive relationship, it's hard to it's almost like anything you do is going to make it worse for them.
Yeah.
At that point. Because if you call out the abuser, they're going to turn it on their victim and they're going to say, well, you made me look like that. And that's why I got, and if you go to the victim and you're like, hey, whatever, do you need anything? Let me help you get out. It's like, they're not your friend. They're trying to turn you against me. It's because you're acting all this way and you're getting their attention. So it's so, I don't know. It's so hard.
I think that's why I totally agree. And I think maybe I'm wrong, but maybe normalizing talking about it. That it's not a taboo, hidden subject, that when somebody says they're being abused, they're immediately believed, that there is counseling readily available, that going to a shelter is not a point of shame for anybody. Like there's a shame involved. There's a not believing involved or not understanding the depth of the problem. There's so much about this issue that is hidden, and that I think makes it hard. And it's not. I think if you normalize it, everything. I mean, every thing that people go through, I feel like, or most things that people go through are shame, like are like shrouded in shame, you know, especially women. Like things that women go through are shrouded in shame, and we're not supposed to talk about them, and they're taboo, and everything's fine. And I don't know if you have this experience, but I have noticed that maybe I'll get attacked for saying this, and maybe nobody will love me anymore, but I really feel that white women are taught to not support each other. And I don't necessarily mean by women. I mean by the patriarchal society.
Yeah. So that's
women do not support each other in the way that they should, because you see it in other cultures. Like Black women support each other.
Yeah.
They are there for each other. They come out for each other.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. And I don't know that it's not necessarily exist in Black women's communities, but I'm not in them, so I can't speak to them. But I think it's called a patriarchal bargain, where women, especially white women, are closer to the top of the power. So we think if we are just nice enough to men, they will give us some of that or protect us. And it never happens. Like they will always turn on you. Even if you're a Fox News blonde, they will turn on you.
There's also a it's that, but I also don't know about how conscious white women are of it. Like that I think it's also like not being it. Like not being the one that's ridiculed or standing out or incurring somebody's fury or being embarrassed in the meeting.
Right.
If you just go along, you won't be called out. And so it's like a conditioning. In my experience, it's both. It's either both a conscious choice, like, yes, I will get what I want if I go along, or I don't want to be singled out. I don't want to be victimized, so I'm going to go along because it saves me. It saves me.
Right.
Right. And
exactly.
So what it is, though, is that women against women, and I'm not saying that this obviously is not happening in her situation, but I think that that's a problem when it comes down to talking about these topics, because there is immediately a judgment and immediately a back turning, or like, it's like, I think we talked about that, the thing like where I'll bring you a casserole when you move in, but I'm going to talk about you behind your back as soon as I leave your porch. So it's like, it's that. And I wish that there was a deeper sense of community and friendship, and like deeper that you can, I wish I could make deeper friendships with women and feel comfortable. I feel like in times in my life where I've told people things about what's going on with me, the first reaction is sort of like sometimes depending on who the person is, but a lot of times it's not a support thing, it's a thing, you know? Yeah. And it's sort of like, I feel like that happens to people if it's abuse, if it's mental health, if it's like anything that's sort of considered taboo, even though it's not taboo. It shouldn't be taboo because it's a person's experience. There's nothing shameful about having to go through these things. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Somebody hits you, that's not embarrassing for you, that's embarrassing for them. Right. And that's their issue. And there should be a coming around to support, but there's a lack of that. And I think there has to be a better way of normalizing.
I think part of it is a human tendency to need there to be a reason that it happened, so that you want to be able to think to yourself, well, that won't happen to me because I am different, or I do X, Y, and Z. And like, you see it in a weird way that you see it is parents who, there is this like beautiful, heart-wrenching, and I can find it, but article about parents who accidentally leave their toddlers in hot cars.
Oh, yes.
It's just like, we all want to look at them and say, you're a monster. You shouldn't have done it. But the truth is, if you really think about it, if you read this article, if you know it can happen to you. And that is too much for some people to take in and to accept and to think about. So they protect themselves by saying, well, no, because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z.
Right. Yeah. I'm not going to end up in that situation. I would never put up with that, a man saying that. And the thing is, like, yeah, you wouldn't put up with maybe, like we were saying earlier, all of it at once.
Right.
But somebody who's slowly manipulating you, you don't know. And you don't know until you are in your specific moment what you would do. And a lot of times you don't do what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was reading through her ordeal and I was thinking, I could never survive that. But you don't know. Because you don't, like, there's
Right.
no, hopefully I never find out. I don't want to find out if I can survive that. But it's like, it shows you that, yeah, like someone like Teri and someone like Mary Vincent show you that human beings can survive the absolute worst. You know, like you mostly do survive, like all the shit. But it would be so much nicer, in my opinion, if we were just real with how hard life is and that we held each other up, and instead of like making things that are already so difficult more difficult for people.
Yeah, it's a weird thing of modern life where we're all supposed to work hard, but it's not supposed to look hard. Like,
Right.
life is hard. It's hard. Right now, it's double hard.
Yep.
It's hard in a way that it's never been hard for anyone.
Yep.
It's hard. It's allowed to be hard. You're allowed to feel like it's hard.
Yeah.
So I have 2 book recommendations based
Okay.
on this story.
Thank you for that.
For anyone who is in or has ever been, or thinks they might be in, or thinks they might have been in, or would like to sympathize with abusive relationships, and kind of the psychology of being in it. Fiction, if you want fiction, please read In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. It's amazing. I think I've talked about it before. It's kind of literary in that every chapter is a different genre of storytelling. Like there's a noir and there's a rom-com, and it's cat butt time. I'm so glad.
At the same time, yeah.
I'm so glad we got a cat butthole at the end for like a palate cleanser. So that's a really good. It's not fiction. It's a memoir. So, but it's kind of that kind of thing. But it's a very like stylistic like genre memoir. It's very good. And then for nonfiction, there's this book called Why Does He Do That? And it was written by a person called Lundy Bancroft, who actually spent years working with men who were in programs for domestic abusers. And it's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And it talks about how when you see them treat other people badly, they will eventually treat you that way. How it's all about control. It's not about you. It's not about the thing. It's about the control. What was the other thing that I was going to say? And a lot of the times what happens in abuse is when someone comes forward, the whole circle says, well, but he was always so nice to me. We don't understand how he could do that. And that is on purpose. They do that on purpose, and they're sweet as pie to people who they will need later to stand up for them and say, no, he's so sweet. He's so wonderful. Or for people that like, they can't be abusive to. Not to say that you could stand up to them, but people in authority situations where like their boss or something.
Yeah.
So they test, like they test boundaries. They test to like find someone. Like you said, he thought she would be the perfect person. You test the boundaries and the willingness to change behavior, and you find someone. It's really fascinating. I have highlighted passages in mine because I was like, holy shit. Yeah. But
you know what, as you were talking, it made me think of, I don't want to backpedal, but I want to add to what I was saying, that it's not just the job of women to come to be there for other women. It's also a job of teaching, please, dear God, teaching men that women are not disposable and they are not your property, and that you do not get to control them. And that women don't have to accept abuse from you. They don't have to accept you. You don't get to be creepy. You don't get to be handsy. You don't get to be weird and still get what you want. Like, there are consequences for those things, and you don't get to push it around a woman. And I think there's so much tied in to boys needing to be masculine and tough and providers, and like, if you're not a traditional man, then, there's something wrong with, and all that stuff that you strip away at a young boy, that by the time they get older, they think they need that kind of control over other people. That's really where it starts. It's not a woman's job to avoid abuse from men. It's a man's job not to abuse.
Yeah.
And that being said, the abuse still happens, and when that happens, there should be a readily available community, and it should be normalized. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
And misogyny is a project that men have to get in on, because misogynists aren't going to listen to women; they're going to listen to men. Yeah. And as one of the women I follow, I think she goes by Feminist Next Door on Twitter, said, if you don't like women talking about how much they hate men, then you need to make men act better.
Yeah, it's true. When I was listening to this story, I was like, this guy is the extreme of so many people that exist now. He is the extra version.
Yeah.
But this exists in low-key form in so many men. I mean, I think about people I meet, and I like right away I see it. I'm just like, oh, doesn't like women. Oh, yeah. Like you can see it in just the way that they treat people, the way that they treat women, the way that they act when a woman, like, I don't want to say asserts herself, but acts like she's part of the team.
Right, acts like a person. Amazing. Like a goat walking on its hind legs.
It has an opinion. I was once told that I had too many opinions and I needed to only speak up if I was going to agree. And that was by a boss.
Yep.
Who also only the only conversation he ever made with me was about my son, which is fine, but I'm not, like, I'm at work. Ask me about anything. Like, you're asking him about a paper he wrote, but like for me, you only ask me about my son, which honestly, no offense, but you don't care about my son. So keep my son out of your business.
Well, because some men only see women as mothers.
Yep.
And that's all there is to you. Yeah. And every single one, I would say this with absolute confidence, every single man who makes decisions about a radio station that targets women sees them only as mothers. I can tell you for a fact. Yeah.
For sure. And you know what? That's not even like mothers is such a there's not one mom. There's so many different kinds of moms.
It's the idea. It's a very specific idea of motherhood.
That we're all the same little moms with all the same thoughts.
You have no dreams. Did you know?
I don't.
I can tell you about moms. You all drive minivans. You don't have any dreams.
I
You take do all of the work.
Well, that is
when it's daylight savings time and it's light for an hour longer and the kids don't want to go to bed on time. That's your whole life. That's your whole world. And if a radio DJ is talking about anything other than that, just you're not connecting to your audience. Andrea, real conversation I have had. Like basically, if a woman loses a sock in the dryer, why would she talk about anything else that entire day? Remind me to let Andrea roast me. Ooh, let's make that a sub perk. Roast. No, it's been a day. It's been a day in radio Twitter.
It's crazy that the lack of understanding about how women work in general. And yet we need to control them and tell them what to do. It's so interesting to me.
So the last station I worked at, they did this whole campaign of like why you should advertise to women. And we had huge signs all over the studio that were basically, women, they can use money. Who knew? They buy things. Did you know? It's so frustrating.
So weird.
So frustrating.
So weird. I saw on Twitter this actor who, like, I randomly remember him from like a bit that he did on Adam Ruins Everything. But anyway, he was on a Zoom call for an audition, and the director didn't know that he wasn't on mute. Did you see that? And was like trashing this guy's apartment. And I was like, that shows. And he was just like, the actor handled himself so gracefully. But like, And his apartment was fine. It wasn't like you would think it was like it was really nice.
It looked nice to me.
I
There was a
know.
window.
I was like, oh god, if so, like look what I live in. But it just like it just shows you that people who make decisions, people who are like at the head, at the top, they do not understand how real people live and work and are. They have no concept.
Yeah.
And not only do they not understand it, they think so little of who we are and what we enjoy and like how we live our lives. And that just tells you, it makes me, it disgusts me because I'm like, why are all the people making decisions the worst people on earth?
Yo. Yo, yeah, I know. So hard. I know it's so hard.
The other day, Jude said that if he was the president, he would make 3-day weekends. And I was like, Jude, that's the same platform that I would have. I was like, why are we not a thing?
Well, speaking of weekend, are we going to be on Friday? Do you want to be on a Black Friday? We can do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you going to be busy? Okay.
You're going to be shopping, right?
Yeah. I mean, you can.
Online shopping.
Shop online.
Mm-hmm.
Have us open in another window. Cool. Yeah. So we're going to do Friday, I think. So I think I'm going to put my ornaments on my tree.
Okay. Do you not want to do Black Friday? We don't have to. You can take the day off. Okay.
That's fine. and I'll have my new computer set up. Ooh, so the bells and the whistles. We're going to have scrolling text. We're going to have an alert box.
Mm-hmm.
There may be graphic stuff. I'm very excited.
Also, really quick, tomorrow at noon, I'm going to be a guest for the Kennett Library. We're talking about the book Lost Girls, which is about the Long Island serial killer, which everyone knows I'm obsessed with.
Right.
So whether you read the book or not, you don't even have to. You can not know anything about it. You could listen to the first episode of the list, like the first 4 or 5 episodes of the List podcast and be caught up. But I will put a link to the sign up. I'm sure everyone's busy at noon tomorrow, but I'll be there in case you want to stop.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fascinating case too, the Long Island serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Billy Jensen is doing something with it, and I'm so jealous. Oh my God. Billy Jensen.
Yeah, so have an awesome rest of your week. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Stay safe, please.
Call out the abusers at your Thanksgiving table or on Zoom, please, who hate women. It will go great. Your dinner will take a turn for the better. I promise. No sarcasm. If you want to ruin dinner, call your uncle a misogynist to his face. But maybe you do want to ruin dinner. And if so, let's be friends.
I mean, it's only going to be over Zoom, so I mean...
Yeah.
Do it and then just hit leave.
Yeah. Like, whoops, was I unmuted? Oh my goodness. Yeah, so have an awesome holiday. Eat a lot, no matter where you are, and we will see you on Friday.
See you on Friday, everybody.